We're still dealing with quadratics, right? We're still dealing with quadratics, so everything you see, the biggest power is going to be 2. Okay? Today, we're dealing with a specific type. Standard form. Standard form. Okay? Standard form looks like this. Except A, B, and C will be numbers. They'll be positive, they'll be negative, some might be fractions, some might be decimals, but A, B, and C will always be a number. It could be 0. Okay? So when we talk about A, B, C, it's the number in front of x squared is A, the number in front of x is B, and then the number by itself is C. Okay? So what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to do these 6 things. I combined 2 and 3 on the board, so that's why there's only 5. But we're going to do these things. We're going to look for these parts that we saw last time, right? This was our notes the last time. All of these different things, right? Axis of symmetry, y-intercept, vertex, maximum, minimum. All of those things we're going to look for today. The only difference is they don't give us a picture. They don't give us pictures like they did on the last one. So we're going to have to create our own picture. Okay? So how do we do that? That's what we're going to do today. So the first thing, what is A, what is B, what is C? Then the second thing is, what is the axis of symmetry? Where is it? The next thing is the vertex. Where is the vertex? Y-intercept, and then the last thing is arrows up or arrows down. Does it have a maximum or does it have a minimum, right? Arrows up means it has a minimum. Arrows down means it has a maximum. Okay? Okay, so let's look at number 1. Number 1. So first we start with the actual standard form. This is in standard form. Okay? What is A, what is B, and what is C? That's the first thing we have to do. So what's in the A part?
1.
A 1, yeah. Not a 0. Some people, someone said last period 0. No, if it was 0, that guy wouldn't even be there, right? If it's there, there's always a 1 in front. Okay? So yep, this guy is 1. So A is 1. B, what is B? Positive 2. What is C? Negative 2. Good. Step 1, done. Okay. Step 2. We got to use those to find the axis of symmetry. So how do we find the axis of symmetry? We use this little formula here. -1 times B, and then 2 times A, and then you divide. Okay? So let's set this up. -1 times B over 2 times A. What did we say B was?
2.
Positive 2, put that on top. What did we say A was? Positive 1, put that on bottom. Multiply. -1 times 2 is -2. Positive 2 times 1 is positive 2. Divide, if we can. We can divide this one. What's -2 divided by 2?
1.
-1. So my axis of symmetry is at -1. So now I'm going to draw that on my graph. I'm going to build my graph. So remember, the axis of symmetry is always a vertical line. It's always a vertical line. It's always going to look vertical. It's never going to be diagonal. It's never going to be horizontal. It's never going to be diagonal. It always looks like this. So I'm going to put it where x is -1. So x is -1. To the right are the positives. To the left are the negatives. -1. Okay, so I'm going to draw a straight line right there, right here. X equals -1. Okay, that's the first thing. So I got number 1 and number 2 done. Number 3 is the vertex. Where is the vertex? So I have to figure out what dot, because I got to make that dot. Here's the thing about standard form. When you find the axis of symmetry, you got half the answer already. Whatever you get for the axis of symmetry is going to come right down here. So we already know that this guy is going to be -1. -1 comma something. We don't know what it is. How do we figure out the y? We're going to use the original guy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my axis of symmetry, -1. I'm going to plug it in everywhere I have an x. Everywhere I have an x. So on your notes, since they were notes, I did it for you. All you got to do is write -1. So everywhere there was an x squared plus 2x minus 2, I'm going to put a -1. Okay? And then PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. I have exponents. What is -1 times itself? Times itself?
1.
+1, yep. And then multiplication, right? What's 2 times -1? Negative, yep. Negative. Bring down the negative or the -2 I had over here. Then subtraction. What's 1 times, not times, -2. Let me move these guys over here a little bit. Okay. What's 1 minus 2 minus 2? -1 minus 2 more, -3. That guy's going to go there. Okay, so let me color code it a little bit. So this guy will always go here. This guy will always go here. Okay. So now I know my vertex. That's a dot. So I'm going to go make that dot. That dot is at -1, -3. Left 1, down 3. Remember, that's either going to be the maximum or the minimum. We don't know which one it's going to be yet. We'll figure it out, but not yet. Okay. The next step is the y-intercept. The y-intercept. The y-intercept always, always, always starts with 0. X is always 0 for y-intercept. I need to figure out the y. So I'm going to do the same thing I did for the vertex. Plug in 0 everywhere for x. It was x squared plus 2x minus 2. So instead of x, I have 0. PEMDAS. What's 0 times 0? 0. What's 2 times 0? 0 minus 2. -2. That's my y-intercept. Going to go make that dot. This one's close to the vertex. Sometimes they're close, sometimes they're not. The green line I have on mine. It's the axis of symmetry. What does symmetry mean, or symmetrical? What does that mean if it's symmetrical or symmetry? It's equal on both sides, right? Both sides have to be the same. So let's look at the both sides. I got an orange dot on one side. Don't I have to have an orange dot on the other side to be symmetrical? So an orange dot, I'm going to have to put an orange dot the same distance away. Okay. So now I got to connect the dots. To connect them, I know it's going to look either arrows up or arrows down. It's got to look like one of these two guys, arrows up or arrows down. Well, if I connect the dots, which way does it have to go? Arrows up or arrows down? Has to go up. Has to go up. So remember, both sides are symmetrical, so whatever the picture looks like on one side has to look like the other. It's just a sketch. So this one is arrows up. So does that mean it's going to have a maximum or is it going to have a minimum? Minimum. So let's write that down there too. Since it's your notes, let's write that down. This guy's going to have a minimum What's the minimum value? -3. Good. We always use the y, right? -3. Just like we did the last couple days. And this one's got a minimum at -3. Because sometimes I'll ask you, what's the minimum? Okay. That's it. Okay. Those are the steps. So we're going to do those for the next one now. Number 2. Example number 2. So we always start here. Okay, so we start here. A, B, C. What is A? What is B? What is C? A is -1. Good. A is -1, not. It's got to have a number, -1. B is -2. C is +3. Step 1 done. Next step, axis of symmetry. Use the formula. Okay. What did we say B was? So that goes here. What did we say A was? That goes here. Multiply straight across. So -1 times -2 makes +2. +2 times -1 makes -2. When I divide it, I get -1. That's my axis of symmetry. I know it's the same one as last time. They won't always be -1. That's just a coincidence. So my axis of symmetry is always vertical. So go put it at -1. You can't put it -1 on this side because that's not vertical. Has to be vertical. So the only -1 with vertical is right there. So that's where my green line is going to be. So let me draw that. Okay. Okay. Step 1, step 2 done. Got A, B, C, got my axis of symmetry. Next thing is the vertex. The vertex. So the vertex, remember, whatever I get here, I'm going to get here. If you know the axis of symmetry, you should know half of the vertex. So now I'm going to plug it into the original. That's where where did I get this? Where did I get -1, -2 squared plus 3? Where did I get that? Up here. It's the original. I just put parentheses around the x. Okay. Plug in -1. Exponents first. Exponents, so you have -1 squared, -1 times itself. What's -1 times -1? +1, right? And then this time I have to multiply it times the -1 in front. So what did I get from this guy here? -1, right? Or +1, right? And then multiply it times the -1? -1. So the whole thing is going to be -1. This whole thing is going to be -1. Now let's go to multiplication again. What is -2 times -1? +2. Bring down your +3. Add straight across. -1 plus 2, +1, plus 3 more? 4. That's my vertex. You go make that dot. Negative 1, 4 means I go left 1, up 4. All right, left 1, up 4. Okay. Y-intercept. Always starts with a 0. Doesn't matter which form, always starts 0. Always starts 0, comma something. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the vertex, is just plug in 0. Plug in 0 instead of whatever I did for the vertex. Zero times 0, 0. Times negative 1, 0 still, right? Negative 2 times 0. Bring down your 3. Positive 3, right? 0 minus 0 plus 3 is 3. Got to go make that. 0, 3. Zero, 3. Reflection. If I have one dot on the right, I got to have it on the left, same spot, right? So it's going to be right there. So another dot's going to be right there. Connect the dots. Well, to connect the dots, is it going to be arrows up or arrows down? It's got to be down. It's got to be down because that's the only way it will make sense. So if I have arrows down, is it going to be a maximum or is it going to be a minimum? Maximum. And where is my maximum going to be? Positive 4. Good. Maximum at positive 4. Maximum at positive 4. Good. Good. You guys, okay, so what I want you to do now is do number 3. Number 3 straight across. 4 and 5 we'll do later. Number 3 straight across, I want you to do that one from beginning to end. What's ABC? What's the axis of symmetry? What is the vertex, y-intercept, arrows up or arrows down? Okay, number 3 is straight across. So I did ABC, so A was negative 2, B was negative 8, C was negative 5. And then I did the axis of symmetry. So negative 1 times B, negative 1 times 8, negative 8 is positive 8. 2 times A, which is negative 2, is negative 4. Divide, you get negative 2. Okay. Vertex. Remember, this guy always goes there. And then I'm going to plug it back in. So where did I get, so I already wrote this in your notes, but where did I get negative 2, negative 8, negative 5? I always get that question. Mr. Flores, where'd you get those? Right here. Right here. Okay, where you started, yeah. Okay, so we're going to plug in negative 2, negative 2. Exponents first. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. And then you're going to multiply times a negative 2, right? Hold on. So what do I get when I do all of that? Negative 8. Good, negative 8. So it's going to be negative 8 on top, or on the first part. Not positive 8, it's going to be negative 8. And then I multiply these two guys, I get positive 16. Add straight across. 8 minus 5, you're going to get 3. Go make that dot. Negative 2 up 3. Left 2 up 3. Okay. Y-intercept. Always starts with a 0. Always starts with a 0. You're going to do the same thing you did for the vertex. Plug in 0. Now there's a little trick that some of you might have noticed for the y-intercept. What's the little trick for the y-intercept? Does anyone? It's always going to be, which one? C. It's always going to be C. Yep. Always going to be C. In standard form, this guy is always going to be C. 0, comma C. So negative 5. So you notice how this one, the vertex and the y-intercept are far apart. They've always been close, but now they're far apart. We'll talk about why in a second. Reflect, right? Reflect away. This is 2 away from the green line, so 2 away from the green line, I got to have another dot. It's going to be arrows down again. This one's going to have a maximum at, was it 3? Maximum at 3. Okay, so before we go on, there's 2 questions I have. First question, number 1, example number 1, was that arrows up or arrows down? Number 2, arrows up or arrows down? Number 3, arrows up or arrows down? My question is, can we predict before we have to, I don't want to have to do all of those steps just to know if it's arrows up or arrows down. What do we look at to predict from the very beginning if it's going to be arrows up or arrows down? Yeah, Giselle?
The first, like ax squared.
A. Just keep going.
Oh, if it's negative, if they're going to be continuing down. If it's positive, they're going up.
Perfect. A, you're going to look at A. A will tell you whether it's arrows up or arrows down. Look at number 1. Number 1, A was positive, arrows up. Number 2, A was negative, arrows down. Number 3, A is negative again. So that's how you can tell if it's going to be arrows up or arrows down. So you don't even have to go through all of that to figure out if it's going to be arrows up or arrows down. A will be the one to tell you. That's A's job. That's the first question. Good. The second question. I know 2 and 3 are both arrows down, but you notice any difference between them besides? They both have arrows down, but what's the difference between them?
One's longer.
One's long, skinnier, right? One's skinnier than the other. What does that have to do with? It also has to do with A. A has 2 jobs. It tells me whether it's going to be arrows up or arrows down, and it tells me if it's going to be skinny or wide. Skinny or wide. That's A's job. Okay? A's job is arrows up, arrows down, skinny or wide. Okay? Since number 1 and number 2 had a 1 and a negative 1, that's what we call normal. This guy had an a of -2. That made it skinnier. A of -3, even skinnier. A -4, skinnier. A -5, skinnier. A -100, very, very skinny. How do I make it wide then? Small numbers. What do we call small numbers? What's another word for small numbers? There you go. Fractions. 1/2. If I make a 1/2, it's going to be wide. 1/4, even wider. Okay? That's how to do it. Okay, so last one. Last one we're going to do. So look at through 4 and 5. This is what I want you to do in 4 and 5. Watch this. Watch this. 4 and 5, you're going to do one of these. I'm going to create a number 4. Last one we're going to do is number 4. I'm going to create one. We're not going to do these 4 and 5. So the last thing we're going to do is I'm going to give you an example 4. I'm going to give you an equation in standard form, and I want you to tell me all the things we've done. Okay? So let me write it down. You don't have to graph this one. You don't have a room for a graph, so you just tell me all of those things. So example number 4. New example number 4. New example number 4 is here's the equation. Y equals -2x squared plus 4x minus 10. So what do I want you to do? I want you to first tell me what A, B, and C are. Then I want you to tell me what the axis of symmetry is. Then what's the vertex? Y-intercept. And then I want you to tell me, does it have a maximum or minimum, and where is it? This is the last thing we're going to do. Last thing we're going to do right here. Here it is, right here. Why is it not doing? There we go. Okay. Tell me those 5 things. A is -2, B is 4, C is -10. We set arrows down because A is negative. We know that already. So let's go axis of symmetry. -1 times B over 2 times A. So -1 times 4 over 2 times -2. So we get, yeah. So we get -4 divided by -4, which makes +1. So axis of symmetry is x equals 1. That's where the green line would be. You're not going to draw it because you're not graphing this one, but that's where it is. Next one, vertex. I already know half of the vertex because that guy goes right here. Okay. So I'm going to rewrite the equation. It was -2 parentheses squared plus 4 parentheses minus 10. That's where x was. So now I'm going to plug in +1, +1. Yeah. So -1 times 4 is -4. And then 2 times -2 is -4 as well. So they divide and make it positive. Okay. Okay, here we go. 1 squared. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Multiply, you get positive 4. Bring down negative 10. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2. Minus 10 is negative 8. Okay. Y-intercept. Well, now that we know the little trick, you can just use the little trick, or you can plug in 0. Remember, for standard form, the trick is it's always C. So C was negative 10, so it's going to be negative 10. Or you can plug in 0. That works too. The last one, maximum or minimum. Yeah, go ahead. Maximum or minimum. So we set arrows down, right? So if it's arrows down, it's going to have a maximum. So a maximum at, how do we know where it's at though?
Isn't it the negative 8?
Mm-hmm. The green guy, right? The y of the vertex. Yep, negative 8. Done. Okay? All right, so what I want you to do is there should be tape in front of you. Tape this into page 10. On Monday, we'll do practice 6. Okay?